Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first collaboration of CBN and the Cardinal Red and White ever. This is an extension of my article I wrote in the latest issue about the adventures of Tintin, a movie that came out recently, last holiday season. So let's take a look at that. So, the first time I ever saw the Tintin trailer, the couple thoughts that went through my mind was, I see a CGI movie, really good CGI, looks interesting, story seems just kind of like your typical adventure story, and it had a weird title, The Adventures of Tintin, it sounded like it wasn't made up, like it was from something, I didn't really know what, and then 2 or 3 months later, I get a Facebook message from my friend who's also a movie lover, and he said he named all these names: Edgar Wright, the guy who made Scott Pilgrim; Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, the guys from Shaun of the Dead; Daniel Craig, who's James Bond; Steven Spielberg's directing; Peter Jackson's producing; Stephen Moffat, one of the best Doctor Who writers of the last 5 years, is co-writing the film. It's based on an incredibly successful British comic, or book detective series. I think it's a comic. I'm pretty sure it's a comic. And he was just naming all these names, and I'm like, well, wait a second. And Andy Serkis, who's Gollum. He's Caesar from Planet of the Apes. He's in everything now with motion capture. He's doing the motion capture. So I just hear all these names, and it's like this wild bunch of incredible people in the film industry. And I'm like, well, now I have to give it a shot because, duh, there's all these people in it. So a couple months went by, I heard about it, I'm like, oh, it's kind of cool. And then, the 3D started coming out, and I started kind of getting into 3D. I recently started watching the Hobbit production vlogs, and that showed how 3D can really be used well. So now I'm kind of a big fan of 3D. And then Tintin's in 3D. And so I finally say, I really want to go see this movie. I know it just seems like you don't judge it by the trailer. I know you have to, but the names plus what it could be, the potential, there's no way you can go wrong. So I'm like, I have to see this movie. And I did so 1 or 2 weeks ago, and it was fantastic. I went to the movie theater alone, and I just sat, and it was kind of weird because it was sponsored by Nickelodeon, so I was watching a Nickelodeon movie alone, by myself, wearing 3D glasses, alone. So, I love going through movies alone and just soaking it in, but this was kind of interesting. And then I went in there, put on the 3D glasses, and I said, you know what? Amaze me. I want to see how good this movie is. And I got to tell you, I've never seen a visually stunning movie. It's one of the most entertaining movies I've seen in the last year. And it does, however, lack a little bit of passion. I feel like the passion was in it was more of a homage to the comic as it was the Steven Spielberg making his own thing. And it was action, and it was John Williams' music was playing over it. So it was Spielberg, but it wasn't as much as if Spielberg took his own story and idea and made it his own. It was a little bit more focused on the special effects than it was with kind of showing how good of a movie Spielberg can make. And it was a good movie. It's weird to think that Spielberg would make a movie in full 3D animation, which is interesting, plus motion capture. So, but then again, if you look at Jurassic Park, he has been pioneering technology forever. But yeah, so it's basically about Tintin, who's like a journalist, and in the beginning of the movie, he basically walks through this market, and he wants to buy a boat because it looks cool, and he's with his little dog, Snow. He's like this little white Scottish dog or whatever, I don't know breeds, but, and he walks through, and he's like, oh, that's a cool ship. And so he gets it. Some guy says, I want to buy that from you. And he goes, no, it's not for sale. And he goes, okay, kid, you better get rid of it because there's a lot of trouble. And another guy who's obviously voiced by Daniel Craig, I recognized it the second I heard it because he's got a very distinct voice, says, "I want that too," and it's like basically the movie starts off with an adventure, like any good adventure movie should, and just it takes you through all these amazing landscapes that are just so much attention to detail, and it still's not like Polar Express, Robert Zemeckis' weird, like that uncanny valley where it gets to the point where it's over and it just drops and it's just like, oh, it's realistic, and it looks like a zombie. You know, it's like it changes. But this movie did not do that. It was still very cartoonish. It still had, you know, you could tell it was very iconic. Tintin's outfit and kind of his hairstyle and all this was very put together very well. And you just go through these beautiful landscapes, and it's all in 3D. And there was one particular scene, which was like 5 minutes, and when I was watching it, it was like, when is this going to end? But it wasn't like in a bad way. It was like, I can't believe that they still were able to make it like this. Like, I still can't believe I'm having this much fun watching the scene, and it's been going on for 5 minutes. It was a chase scene where Tintin is trying to get one of the scrolls, which is important to find something in the story. And this eagle the bad guy owns has it. And it's just flying through the city of some weird Middle Eastern city, kind of like in Raiders of the Lost Ark, and they're chasing it. But Tintin's on this motorcycle, and there's like all these like stunts, and oh my gosh, he like at one point he breaks off the motorcycle, only has the handle, uses it as like some kind of zip line, still chasing a bird, and it's like a tracking shot. The whole scene is a tracking shot. It's chasing the bird, and there's just like, you see cities whooshing by, and it's not just like copy and pasted backgrounds. It's like literally fully fleshed cities, and it's all in 3D. And I mean, this movie is just a spectacle. You really have to see it in theaters, and you have to see it in 3D, because I mean, even just in courtesy to the filmmakers for making such a fantastically performed 3D movie, you should see it in 3D. And the acting, it's all right. I mean, it does its purpose. It's nothing that's gonna make you cry or whatever. It's nothing overly dramatic, but it does its purpose. It for what it is, it's absolutely fine. It doesn't bother me, and it's all voice acting, and it does line up well with how they're talking. But it's one of those movies where it's gonna pass by people as like, oh, that's just another three-dimensional animation movie. But if you just like go onto the Internet Movie Database, IMDb, and you just look at the page of Tintin, and you look at the people involved, go to full cast, look at the people involved, and if you kind of keep your eye out in the film industry, you know that this is an insane group of people. So that alone should just say, you know what, I'm going to give this a shot, because it's worth it. And I really appreciate you guys. If you read my article in the newspaper, thank you for coming over here. I'm liking this whole format where I can write something, and then if you wanna hear more about it, you can click on this link or scan this link and come to this video right here. So I really appreciate you guys watching. Stay tuned, because CBN has so many great things coming, and I'll catch you guys later. Thanks for watching. Bye.